Welcome to the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast, a show created to help painting company owners build a thriving painting business that does well over $1 million in annual revenue. I'm your host, Brandon Pierpont, founder of Painter Marketing Pros and creator of the popular PCA educational series, Learn, Do, Grow, Marketing for Painters. In each episode, I'll be sharing proven tips, strategies, and processes from leading experts in the industry on how they found success in their painting business. We will be interviewing owners of the most successful painting companies in North America and learning from their experiences. On this episode of the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast, we host guest Michael Sutton. Michael is the founder and owner of Kind Home Solutions, a residential painting company based in Denver, Colorado. In this episode, Michael discusses how he has reached over $9 million in annual revenue in under 5 years of business. Michael runs through his company's story year by year since its founding in 2018 and outlines how he achieved $2.2 million in his first year alone. Approaching his company with a very different mindset from most other painting company owners has allowed Michael to achieve a growth rate few people could have imagined. In addition to high revenue, Michael breaks down how he has managed to be awarded Denver Business Journal's Best Place to Work while achieving over 50% gross margin on his painting projects. If you want to learn more about the topics we discussed in this podcast and how you can use them to grow your painting business, visit paintermarketingpros.com/podcast for free training, as well as the ability to schedule a personalized strategy session for your painting company. Again, that URL is paintermarketingpros.com/podcast. Michael, thank you for coming on round 2 for the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast, man. Absolutely.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. Really excited to talk today.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So I'm gonna dive in, Michael. I'm extremely excited for this episode. You and I were connecting some before the recording, and you're growing a little bit slow right now. I think we did a recording last year. You were at a paltry 6.4 million after having been in business for close to 4 years. So I'm not really sure what you were doing. And then now, where are you now? What's your projected revenue?
Oh, somewhere falling in that 8 to 10 million range. Probably closer to 9, right there in the middle.
Yeah. So the growth has definitely stagnated for you. So we're going to see if we can figure out, how we can get you to 50 million by next year.
That would be amazing. And accelerating the timeline.
Yes. So, as Jason Paris says, compressing time. So you are under 5 years in business and you are projected to do close to $10 million. What's your secret?
What would be the secret of that? Having amazing people and having an incredible team around us, and really focusing on the people who have made this happen, because it certainly was not me. I just happened to be in this chair, and I could easily have been in another one. I would say it's certainly the people on the team and keeping them here and keeping them happy. So that's
all right. So I'm not going to let you off that easy, Michael. So you're humble. You're a very humble guy. Having the right team is obviously super important. Let's say let's maybe, I guess, back up and let's go into a little bit about your history, kind of what you did before you started Kind Home Solutions, why you started it, and what were the first few steps that you took when you started your business?
Yeah. I think a lot of entrepreneurs would say this, but I've always been a serial entrepreneur. It's something that, driving deep inside of me. I share this story a lot, but I remember in second grade choosing a spelling word, and I chose entrepreneur as that spelling word.
Dude, that's awesome.
And that was second grade. And it was an idea of who you are and the ability to support people around you and to pour into other people. And it was one of those things where if it wasn't going into entrepreneurship and running a business, I wanted to go into the ministry. My grandfather was a pastor, and he led a church and poured into people, and he loved them. And it's a similar type of ability that we're placed as a head of a company, where you can really support and love the people around you and take care of them. And very similar types of work, where it's just taking care of the team around you while they do their lives. So I spent most of my 20s trying to start a company and figure out something that I could do. Ended up in Colorado and ran out of money and ended up getting a job working for a painting company. And it was a very, very tiny painting company. Worked for them for a year. Then I worked for a much larger painting company for some time and really got engaged inside of the sales aspect of talking about paint and talking about application and learning the industry. And then when I went out on my own, I had a few key employees that joined and started fast, slowed down, and now we're in a position where we can speed up again. So
you came, I guess, leading into in Kind Home Solutions, you really had a sales background. You were conducting the sales for a bigger painting company.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you think that was a critical factor in your success?
It was a critical factor in understanding a plan. And there's, I think everyone says that you learn through repetition, right? How many hours does it take to master something? Mm-hmm. Crazy amount.
10,000, which I think now
10,000
being debated as maybe that's too low, but it's a lot of hours.
It's a lot of hours. And I talk to new salespeople on my team where it's, hey guys, you have to put in the reps and you have to put in the practice. Asking for the business is not a simple thing. And the first time you sit down, I have a gentleman on my team. I'm going to share his story. He was running a painting company for himself for the last year. And he reached out to me and said, are you hiring right now? I think I want to come work for you. I said, what? You've got your own business, man. And he said, yeah, I'm just in this like weird limbo place where I don't know when to hire my first employee. I'm working 7 days a week. I have no personal life. I'm
the dream.
Yeah, the dream. And I feel like it's a common story that you hear. And he says, look, I just want to be a part of a team. I want to work with people who I enjoy. And I want to be able to take a weekend off and not feel like I'm letting my company down. Mm-hmm. Can I come do sales for you? And I said, yeah, let's do it. I'll help train you and you can work with our sales manager and we'll get you into a spot. And the first time he sat down and went to present a quote, he left and he goes, oh my God, I have not been doing sales for the last year. I have been writing quotes and dropping them off for clients. I have not done what you just asked me to do ever.
Wow.
Which means I've got no experience doing this, Michael. You think we can still get successful? Said, absolutely. You broke $100,000 last month in sales. You will be successful.
Yeah. Man, so that's great. So what are some of the, let's dive into this. You know, when he's writing estimates, writing quotes and dropping those off versus what you're doing, what's the difference?
We spend a couple hours with every client. We talk about the scope of their work. We present our numbers on the spot 100% of the time. We don't email a quote to somebody on the back end. I truly believe that if you're going to have a successful project, it starts with a good open line of communication. And to establish that relationship with the client from day one is so important to the client experience. So it also helps build value.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely a bit unique. You know, some companies do it, most don't. Is presenting the quote and everything on the spot. Are you guys big into itemizing? How do you guys, and then throughout your process, how do you kind of build that value so that when you do present the price, you can avoid sticker shock or people not seeing the value there?
I think sticker shock's going to happen.
So occasional person will have a heart attack. It's just, you know.
The occasional. Yeah. You know, we've seen tears. We've been.
Have you really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. This year, we've
wow.
been cursed out and
really
in tears
just because it was higher than they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goodness.
And when people don't have a clue and they have no idea what it might take, then there can be a lot of shock when you show somebody a $10,000 quote.
Sure.
For painting their interior, and
sure.
They said I was thinking it would be like $500.
Oh wow!
Like,
yeah.
You're like, oh, well, it's not.
Yeah, just 20 times that.
Just 20, yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys have any sort of, I guess, disqualification process to try to minimize how often that happens, or what does your sales process look like initially?
We do send a decent amount of information out to our clients ahead of time. I have videos online for how much it costs to paint an exterior. I show houses in there. I give prices of what we actually charge for that house. I talk about calculating number of gallons and amount of trim and prep work and how much we charge for wood replacement. And I have it written and a video about it, which we send to every client ahead of time.
You send it to them.
Absolutely. So before we get there, I'm hoping that they have educated themselves somewhat on what to expect.
You find that a lot of them have?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd probably say 30 to 40% really do the research and take the tools that we give them and use them.
Mhm.
There's and I would love to see that number go up. There's a book by a gentleman named Marcus Sheridan, and it's called They Ask You Answer. It's a marketing book right in your world, Brandon.
Yeah.
And Marcus Sheridan is amazing, and he talks about assignment-based selling and trying to teach somebody, give them an assignment before you come out. And his company, they won't even meet with you to present a quote if you don't complete the assignment prior to the estimate.
Interesting. Now,
Now,
do you think what does he sell?
he sells pools with an average ticket of $50,000.
Okay.
I sell
Oh,
paint jobs with an average ticket of $8,000.
right.
Slightly different, but my goodness, still quite the investment.
Have you, I mean, having read that book, do you think that the psychology there is more an educational component, or is it more, is there sort of a sunk cost kind of they've invested into your business now, and therefore it's going to increase your close rate, psychology component to it?
A little bit of both.
Mm.
There's a statistic from the book. I'm going to butcher it, so this falls in line with the made-up statistics.
Sure.
But it's something along the lines of when somebody read and consumed the full assignment prior to his appointment, he would have I want to say an 85% closing ratio on a $50,000 pool.
Wow.
And without completing the assignment, he had an 18% closing ratio.
Wow.
And he spent several years testing this, and now they have a strict policy of we don't meet with you unless you do your homework. So I think it's just a really empowering the homeowners and our potential clients about what to know within the industry, what makes a good quote versus a bad quote, what are the differences that you'll see, what are the things to be aware of. So we try to educate our clients out before we get there to minimize that sticker shock and to understand what to expect during this process.
For sure. So you guys, so you guys, are you doing the assignment-based selling now, or are you send the videos and you hope that they watch?
I'm hoping. I'm living on a dream versus fully committing.
Sure. What is your close rate currently?
Year to date, all services 43 point something.
Nice. And do you know where you fall within the market in terms of if you charge higher than average ticket value, kind of what percentage higher you are?
I think it's challenging to know for sure. And even from places within the city, you see a little bit of a difference.
Sure.
A lot of, in the Denver market, we have multiple branches of a lot of different companies. And, just because the CertaPro here and the CertaPro here are both quoting your house, doesn't mean that you're going to see quite always the same price.
Right.
Some companies are larger, and from estimator to estimator, you may not see the same price.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I think we talked about this last time. If you asked my sales team, we're the most expensive, but I think everyone's sales team would say the same.
Yeah. Most expensive. You're the highest quality. It's always the top of the top, and always every company you talk to. It's amazing how many companies are like that out there.
Every
This
market
stats, I
has.
can't reconcile it in my head, but I guess it's true.
um, we survey all of our clients at the end of the project, and we ask them, why did you choose us over other options?
Nice.
And the most common answer, price.
So they chose you because you're lower? I don't know. Huh.
Tell me that that's not interesting. So you lose the ones that people say, I went with somebody because you were like crazy price. You were $2,000 more than the other company. You're $3,000 more. You're not even close.
Right.
So you hear that from the ones you lose, but then the ones you win, the number one response, and it's about 35% of the time they mention price as a primary reason. And potentially price is not price just the cheapest, but price is in the perceived value that you receive for that price. So, and we don't differentiate, it's an open-ended question. But they do just pretty much say price. And I have to say, well, maybe it's because of value.
Right.
Maybe it's this, because our average exterior paint job is about $7,000,
Solid.
which is above average here.
Yeah. Do you guys have a certain gross profit percentage you're aiming for in your projects?
It varies depending upon service. So we do woodwork and gutters for clients. Those have different margins than our interiors and our exteriors. And what I have found over time, I was aiming for too low of a gross margin. And learning that it takes more margin to run a business than I really thought it did.
Right. Are you trying to get to kind of that 50% level at this point?
At this point, I'd like to be a little bit higher.
Really? Higher
All
than
services, yeah.
Great. That would be great.
I met with a gentleman a couple years ago. He's actually an uncle of mine, and at one point he ran. He was the CEO of a national HVAC company.
Oh wow.
And he said he has all of on every one of his quotes, this is how we calculate the price, and you divide your labor and your materials by 0.42. And when technicians would call and they'd say, well, why are we always dividing this by 0.42? And he goes, don't worry about that. That's what we need. Well, that's a 58% margin that they were shooting for to run a national HVAC company. And I think I underestimated dreaming in the beginning that you could do this off something like 40, 45, even 50. If you're really going to have the right people in the right positions and be able to support a client in every step of this process, you need margin.
Yeah. Yeah. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. Profit's really the fuel of your company, lifeblood of your company. When you guys are trying to get these higher than average margins, would you say that you're doing that primarily through charging above market prices or through trying to be more efficient in your operations?
Both. Now that I think one of the things you hear common in business is you're not going to become profitable by pinching pennies.
Yeah.
And if we try to control our expenses, we can make a 2, 3, 5% growth. But if I want to move the needle 15%, you're not going to do that by cutting internally. You're only going to do that by understanding your numbers and making sure that you're charging accordingly for it. And I've 100% tried to move our needle, and we've moved it over 15% in 2 years, not by going after our painters and charging our guys less. I've given them raises officially twice a year over the last 2 years. And certainly not by going after our vendors and demanding a lower price on our product. And it's not going to happen internally for the sales team and our project managers or people who bring up price complaints. Say, if you guys want to charge less, I can pay you less.
Right.
Which would you prefer? To charge what we need to pay you what you asked for, or charge less?
Yeah.
So we've tried to do it by knowing our numbers and getting to the right price point to manage our costs internally.
Sure. Now, do you operate with W-2 or subcontractor painters?
Primarily subs.
Okay. And you're
Now,
giving those subs raises twice per year.
yeah,
Okay.
and we run it based off of, a couple of alternative things, so I can show them, their historical data of what was a house a year ago versus a house now, and how much did you make with me last year? How much are you going to make this year,
Mhm.
etc. What's your average home cost over the 20, 30 projects you did for me, and here's your new average home cost. How's that feel? Good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Showing them that progression, that
hmm
improvement. Yeah.
And I think that's something that's oftentimes lacked within the sub model, is that they're not looking at these subs as partners versus the way that Sherwin-Williams views my relationship.
Mhm.
And Sherwin views me as a partner in business, and they treat me like a partner. But I feel as though many of the painting companies out there, they don't look at their subs like they were partners.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
look at them as an asset.
Kind of a churn and burn. What can you get for how much do you have to pay to get it? As opposed to, I guess, kind of trying to build that loyalty and you kind of painting a picture of what you're providing them and the improvements and I would assume kind of what they can expect moving forward if you guys continue to work together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's I think that's just general, how you need to win. And I don't think it's just subs either. I think I think in the PCA the companies are generally much better about it, but I think in the industry overall, it's how a lot of painting companies treat employees. Just kind
hmm
of what can I get out of you? Don't be drunk, don't show up high and just paint and I'll pay you this much an hour and that's the relationship. But obviously it's not a good relationship.
We will be making the announcement really soon, but we actually just got awarded, to me, the most exciting award we've gotten yet, but it was Denver Business Journal Best Places to Work. And I could
Wow.
not be more proud of it.
That is so cool. Congratulations.
Ranking ranking hasn't happened yet, but you don't hear much about that from the painting industry. Um, and I think it really goes down to that mentality of, are people assets or are they, partners?
Right.
Internally or externally, I'm certainly not in a position where I want to look at turning and burning a salesperson, a project manager, an office person. Any of those roles, they're so critical to be filled. And somebody who is exceedingly good at what they do, gosh, they bring a ton of value to a company.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you're kind of laying out the roadmap for success here. You have to get the margins. Don't ignore your margins. You have to get the margin, and you've chose to do it not by trying to stiff or squeeze your vendors or your employees or subcontractors, but by providing the value and value-based selling to customers, making
hmm
sure you're meeting that. And then that's not enough for you to pay them well. You also show them what you're doing. You kind of, I guess, sell the dream or pitch the vision to them, show kind of what
Vision.
they can expect if they continue to partner with you and work with you. So people are excited about it. It's not just,
Mhm.
oh, I go to work and he'll give me these dollars. I go to work and he'll give me these dollars. It's people don't want to feel like they're on a hamster wheel. They want to feel like they're going somewhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
It's
don't think people view subcontractors that way. They're fine to just put them on the hamster wheel and think that, well, that they're subcontractors. They should be happy on the hamster wheel. Nobody's happy on the hamster wheel.
no. And if anyone has ever subcontracted, you've gone through the nightmare. You've had a painter who said, I'm a phenomenal painter. I've got 20 years of experience. I'm good.
Yeah.
And you put them on a house, and what you see is not great.
Yeah.
And the amount of the amount of stress that accompanies that is, it's why I think a lot of painting company owners give up, or a lot of project managers give up, because they feel like they're constantly in a position of trying to find the right people and under delivering on their expectations and constantly cleaning up.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens when you don't have consistent labor who know the expectations that you're setting to the client, know your personal standards within your company, and the standards that your clients will expect.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have that developed, it makes being a project manager or a paint company owner infinitely more difficult. when there's drips all over somebody's roof.
Yeah,
Where
that's stressful.
it's fun. We went up to a house the other day and saw somebody's house that was painted with like a 8-foot circle on the top. And we said, what's that?
Helipad.
And they go, oh yeah, my last painter spilled a gallon of paint up there and then painted my roof to hide it.
Whoa.
Like, oh.
So you just painted a circle?
Yeah, he tried to blend it.
Wow, that's really something. That's the kind of stuff that elevates the industry.
I've replaced 2 roofs.
Man.
So a little bit difference of approach on how do you handle a situation. Last year, back-to-back days. What are the chances of this? Back-to-back days. I had a hose on a sprayer blow up on a roof.
Oh my goodness.
Didn't happen once.
It's a rough 2 days, man.
Part of it.
So you then, what did you contracted with a roofing company, and on your dime, you replaced the roof?
Absolutely, without hesitation.
Man, that's what you call making it right. That's making it right.
Yeah, it was ugly. And the neighbor actually got a free paint job too.
Man, you took a dive, but in the meantime, you protected your reputation, and you also demonstrated to your employees how you do business and how you treat your customers.
Absolutely. And it wasn't a stressful 2 days.
It was not.
No. And I think that's half the battle. When you have employees who are coming into the office and air quotes tragedy strikes. And if I were to run the stress and to show like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I can't believe this just happened. Poor us. That becomes painful for all of the people inside of that building, but it was it's part of what we do. And we're lucky enough, I actually do roofing. We don't do very many roofs, 20 to 30 a year. So it was easy for me to fix.
Nice. Yeah, I think that point is such a good one though, about you as the leader. You dictate how the company responds to things, how resilient the company is, and mistakes are going to happen. Bad stuff's going to happen. As you grow your business, no matter what business you grow, bad things will happen to you and to your company. And it's how you choose to respond that dictates what kind of company you have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Did I see a dog run by?
Yes, that was Teddy. He just got here. Come here, bud.
Amazing. Michael, I want to dive back into your journey because I'm so enamored by it and about your growth. Like your rate of growth is just beyond impressive. Let's go through this year by year, if you'll humor me.
Absolutely.
2022, the plan is you'll probably be in the vicinity of 9 million, upside 10, downside 8. Year one was 2018, right? That's when you started your business.
Yep.
What did that look like? Let's go through year by year.
Year by year. So year one, and I'll lay out, I think this is something that is really helpful for people to know. We started with a person in the office. So very first person, she was my fiance at the time. She is now my wife. She is absolutely incredible at building and developing graphic design, making the imagery, putting our contracts, building websites, making forward-facing stuff. So day one, it was all about let's get our proposals right, let's get our contracts, let's get our image put together, and
making your company look really professional from day one.
The look, yes.
Okay.
So that was the first 3 months, was just who are we and how are we going to present ourselves to the world.
Okay.
The very first hire outside of her, and she also ran our phones. So she managed all of the inbound, outbound leads. If you call our office between 8 and 5 and on Saturdays, she was here to answer that phone and to serve our clients. And it was so important to have that point of contact. Person number 2 was a salesperson to take on the estimating. Person number 3, and that was in the 3rd week, was a door knocker.
So these were all within 3 weeks.
Within the first month, it was
your fiance was doing all this, and then you almost immediately hired a salesperson, and then
at a door to
almost
door.
immediately hired a door knocker.
Yep.
So
And it was the three of us.
You were selling, you were paying when you didn't have revenue then. Am I understanding correctly?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
they were on staff.
Okay, wow.
So they had salary jobs. They were being paid out of my personal bank account.
So you had some savings and you were gonna apply that to bootstrap this thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was for us decent timing, about February. And in February in Denver, there's snow on the ground and it's cold, and we're knocking on doors saying, "Can we paint your house the first week of March?"
Man.
And sure enough, it was a door-to-door lead that we painted the first week of March.
Amazing.
So, and we ran door-to-door for our first 2 years of business, making sure that we had leads coming in and that we were earning capital, which we could then use to invest in higher level marketing. So I would say by May of our first season, I had 3 salespeople, 5 people knocking doors, and 3 project managers on staff.
So hold
By
on.
May.
So you started in February, and in May, you had 3 salespeople, 5 door knockers, and how many PMs?
3. Technically 2. The third was, I guess, in June.
You had 10 people on staff 3 months into your business.
4 months, yeah.
And you were making enough sales to pay salaries for 10 people, and you were no longer funding it out of your personal bank account.
Correct. Absolutely.
And the way that you did that, because it doesn't sound like you had done much. I know your wife put up the website, but it doesn't sound like you had done a lot in terms of the digital marketing space. You were able to find that initial attraction largely through the door knocking campaigns.
Door knocking that year was about 40% of our revenue. 50%. Yeah.
Is this
SEO
what you would
takes
advise
time.
other people to do? Like if they want to grow really quickly, is this what you would say? Would you say, hey, hire an estimator and hire a door knocker, and that be the way that you start?
Yeah, absolutely.
So door knocking was kind of your initial catalyst.
Absolutely. It's the lowest cost per job, hands down. And I've analyzed, 50 different lead sources. I've yet to see something beat it cost per lead for somebody who's decent at it. It's something that as an owner, I can control. I can control hitting doors.
Yep.
I can control knocking at 8:00 at night. I can control knocking on a Saturday and a Sunday. And
yep. How did you find people? How did you choose the people to do this? How did you come up with the system, the sales script? How did you generate all that?
Painting's a beautiful thing in that when someone needs to do it. Whereas a lot of other door-to-door, it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, guess what those pipes look like and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you have any bugs around your house? Are you trying to exterminate anything? But when it comes, absolutely. Or if you're doing charity, raising money for fundraisers, if you're doing any political knocking, you don't know what's behind that door. Is it a red or blue? Is this going to go good or bad? But with painting, every door you knock, you can objectively know they need to paint. And then it was about finding fair compensation, leading by example, being a part of the team, looking for people with experience, knocking doors. And there's a ton of industries that rely on it. Windows is another beautiful thing when it comes to door knocking and field marketing. Similar to painting, when somebody has old, outdated single pane aluminum windows, you can see it. So when you knock on someone's door, it's a super simple conversation. I happen to notice you might be thinking about painting. Would you be interested in a free estimate? No.
Do you guys offer any sort of promo or anything like that, or is it just, hey, we can paint your house?
I don't think you need a promo at the door. And maybe there's times where it has something nice. Well, I've got some really great spring specials right now. And if you are thinking about doing it in the next year, we've got some spring specials. Are you sure you wouldn't be open to a free quote? I could have somebody out here in a couple days.
Yeah.
Um,
What's
yeah,
your set rate on door knocking, and then what's your close rate on those estimates?
my statistics would be rough. I haven't, we've, since the pandemic, in Denver, we had a shelter in place that went into place on March 17th. And on that day, I let go 7 door knockers,
Hmm.
and I have not rehired a door knocking team.
Hmm.
So, and in 2020, I just thought in good conscience, it wasn't appropriate to be going door to door, having face-to-face conversations.
Sure.
I know not all companies stopped their canvassing efforts during the pandemic, but we did.
I
And
can tell you, I had a couple unpleasant conversations, unpleasant on my end, with some solar panel salesmen. Actually bought a little sign that said, "No soliciting. Please don't make it weird." And then I would ask them whether they know how to read when they came to the door, because it seemed that they did not. So I think you made the right move.
and there was a lot of fear around that. And, in all fairness, knocking on doors is hard.
Mhm.
Even for somebody who's done it for many, many years. And the very first painting company that I worked for, it was Andrew's Painting. And he taught me to knock on a door. And my job was to knock doors and paint houses.
Mm.
Um, so I did that for him for a year. And that was
Yeah.
my introduction into it. So
So Michael, when you started this company, did you, and I know you were working for a large one before, so maybe you did go into it with this mindset, but obviously that's just extraordinary hiring growth, right?
yeah.
Like 4 months in, having 10 people. I mean, that's unheard of. I've
Mm.
never, I've interviewed a lot of painting company owners across the US, and I've never heard anything even remotely near that. Did you go into the business with that plan, say, hey, I'm going to hire aggressively in year one, and we're going to grow aggressively? Or was that something that happened?
My what I wanted to do was open up our original business model and tell you how wildly short we came.
Are you
And
serious? So
oh,
you're doing almost 9 million in your fifth year, and or probably over 9 million, and you are falling short of what you wanted.
absolutely, by far.
Michael, you are ambitious, man. I
I,
love this.
I think year one, our revenue goal was $3.5 million, and we did 2.2. So
Year one, you did 2.2.
yeah, and
What a disappointing, Michael. I am disappointed. I'm gonna
I was
end this
shooting for 3.5.
podcast right now.
And it was, yes, it's all about aiming high and falling somewhere reasonable and hoping that you can get by.
Yeah.
I had one of my teammates, we were talking to another business owner in the industry, and we were talking about goal setting and how goal setting is potentially one of the hardest things that I've been faced with in this position. Is what is that number, and how do you project the future, and how do you set good forecasts? Because every year we've missed our goal. I we have not
What
hit
were
our
you
goal
supposed to
once.
be? Are you supposed to be at 50 million right now?
No, but that is on a board in our
Is it?
office.
I bet it
Uh,
is, man. And
and
I
it
bet
has
you'll get there too.
it does have a day and a day and a month and a number and a number of people associated with it. So yes, from day one, it was how many people do you need to create the revenue, and fine tuning that model of what can you expect per person. So, and looking at each person is, what is it that they're capable of producing or
Mm.
converting or setting? What's their workload? And things that I have underestimated. Oh, people don't always work at 100%.
Mm.
Leads don't always come in at the highest level. People take time off.
Where are the
Significant.
robots when we need them?
Those are like little things that I've missed in the past when you're going through and you're laying out those projections of, okay, I've got this. Every estimator does 15 estimates a week, and we have 52 weeks in the year. So let's say 52 times 18 or 52 times 15, and that gives us, okay, I can plan X amount. Now, there's a little bit of hyperbole in there because obvious. I don't look at a season as 52 weeks long, but I looked at maxing every
Right,
person's number
right.
out and
Kind of,
what
kind of the upside, and not really accounting for the realistic scenario of what was going to occur.
Absolutely. And it's something that we talked about here, where I said, when you asked me what our goal was, and I said, well, I've got three. I've got a, you know,
Yeah.
maybe a good, better, best, or a worst case, best case, most likely case budgets.
Yeah.
And when I heard somebody say that to me recently, you need to put together three different budgets for what's most likely,
Sure.
what's the best case, and what's the worst case. And it just, something clicked inside of my brain. And I go, oh, well, that's a beautiful piece of advice. Thank you. I've never looked at worst case. And frankly,
Sure.
I've probably built a lot of my budgets off best case and those projections, not recognizing that that's not the world we live in.
Sure.
We don't live in best cases most of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do.
Yeah. Sometimes you're lucky. But yeah, then you have a like a budget to actual or whatnot sheet, and you can project every month or every week, however you do it, basically how on track you are for hitting your goal, and what may or may not need to shift in your hiring plans and everything else.
Yeah. What I would say the number one change that I've had in my personal role running the company is I have more time to pay attention to those projections than I did several years ago.
Mm.
And I think that attention to the plan has really helped get us a little bit closer to our goals. Last year we were only 300,000, 200,000 off. So
Nice.
a little bit better than 40% off.
Yeah, man. So for someone who's just kind of in awe, 'cause I'll be honest, I'm a little bit in awe of you and these numbers. What are some pieces of advice, or if you had to kind of prioritize one thing, like, hey, here's where your mind needs to be if you want to have a chance of, even if you might not think it's aggressive growth, obviously most people do. If you want to have a chance of seeing this kind of level of growth, this is what you need to be thinking like.
I would recommend thinking about an accountability chart.
Okay.
And I would think about an accountability chart of current, 1 year and 3 years down the road of what are the positions within your company that you have currently? What are those positions going to be next 1 year from now? And what are the positions going to be 3 years from now? People, the team, the support, that's the key to doing it. It's not something that one person can do. So really making sure that you have a plan for what are those different jobs, what do those jobs look like, what are the responsibilities that will fall into each person within that accountability chart, and start mapping that out for growth. And it tends to fall in a little bit of a triangular step of growth where in some positions, the more you add, the more you need. As you grow additional paint crews, you need additional foremen.
Mm-hmm.
So where is your procurement process for developing the skill set around foreman? Because it's not the same as an hourly.
Mm-hmm.
What's your employee retention around your foreman if you're going to go from 1 crew to 5? So be thinking about what it's going to look like down the road. Would be my first piece, is look at the human component of it. And then my second piece of advice would be to look at the financial component to each of those persons. What is their responsibilities? What's the earning potential for them? What's the revenue that they generate? What's the amount of leads or workflow that they can handle? And unfortunately, you have to turn people into numbers at that point and look at the forecast that way.
Yeah. So no, I mean, this is a hugely different way of looking at business, because your approach, again, obviously you understand sales, the need for sales, that none of this works without sales. And so you started really aggressively focusing on sales. That's your background. But then you went into it really kind of building out a future org chart, and at the different levels of the business, what is required. Okay, how, and I love what's the earning potential, and even people who are not directly necessarily contributing to projects in terms of actually painting or even necessarily being a foreman on a project, still have earning potential. What does that look like? What's their cost? What, and then, kind of the upside downside, but you just map this thing out. I mean, that's not how people look at it. It's not, people start a business and, well, how do I get more leads? Okay, how can I kind of close these leads? And you have to do that, but you've taken such a different level, and you've essentially built out and correct me if I'm just totally off on this, but you basically almost built an imaginary empire in your mind. And then you just started filling in the pieces because you already knew what the pieces were. It wasn't oh crap, what do I need? Oh man, what am I being overwhelmed with? What should I outsource? You already know kind of A through Z, and I'm sure it changes, but you had a pretty good idea of A through Z when you were still not even at A yet. Am I thinking about this right, or am I off?
100%. I had, yeah. The business plan was written, and it was written for 5 years out from day one. And we look wildly different than I expected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I will, say it, be prepared for failure. Even because all of those forecasts and the things that you project, they don't come the way you want.
Sure.
Not always. Sometimes they do. And some people are wildly blessed with success and make it all look easy. But the mental fortitude to deal with failure is such an important thing. Did we fail year one because we didn't hit our revenue goal? I don't know. If you ask my accountant, they would say absolutely.
Yeah.
If you ask my team, they would say not at all. So it's and being prepared to walk through those. I had a little bit of peace the other day as I would spend a lot of time in the beginning of a year focused on putting together our projections and our numbers. And somebody smarter than myself said, Michael, give yourself a little bit of a break here. You're talking about telling the future. And AI is here to do that. And he personally, he loves AI and he writes it, and man, it just felt good to be like, well, thank you for saying that, because I write the forecast, we plan the leads, and we identify the drivers, and okay, if we spend this much here, we get this much here.
Yeah.
Where's it going to break down in that process? And I think it naturally does happen. So
allowing yourself some latitude, recognizing that the best laid plans of mice and men, things go wrong. And it's hard for us as business owners, entrepreneurs. We're pretty type A, we're pretty hard on ourselves. That's kind of how we get to where we are, but we don't have other people, and we also don't have people really above us telling us like, hey, it's okay, you're doing great. So I think that's an important lesson. It might sound kind of soft or whatnot, but it's important. And if you want to have this mental fortitude, and you want to be able to be in it for the long haul, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Entrepreneurship's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you beat the crap out of yourself over every mistake, every missed thing, you're not going to stay in that marathon.
Yeah, it's I'm listening to a Simon Sinek book right now, and it's called The Infinite Game. And I think that's something that I struggled with in the beginning. Was you work on something and you want to go, check, done.
Yeah, be done with it.
Cross it off the list. It's complete. Well,
never have to work on it again. Done.
And it was a mindset struggle that I and my wife struggled with in the beginning of, we have to rewrite our contract again. No, we have to change it again. And, at that point we were printing contracts, and every time we'd have to make these edits, okay, we'll call the printer. We'll get them remade because this needs to be added or changed. And that acceptance or realization that this is constantly improving and constantly moving forward and constantly requiring work. It's never done. It is infinite.
Yeah.
It's been helpful. And I've seen it in myself before listening to the book. And then you start tying this is what I felt and I experienced as I was learning that this is a continuous battle of improvement.
I'm definitely going to read that book. I'm going to read both the books you mentioned, They Ask You Answer, but I'm definitely going to read that Simon Sinek. My wife and I were actually talking about this today. One of the things we both struggle with, and it is a bad thing to struggle with as a business owner and entrepreneur, is I want to be at the destination. I want to be there yesterday, a year ago. I want to be there. And if you live with that mindset, if you don't learn to embrace that journey, recognizing it will always be a journey, because guess what? When you get there, you're at 9 million. Most people can't even, that's not even really in the realm of what they think is possible for their life. And you are sort of disappointed in a way because your goal is so aggressive.
Oh, yeah.
You have to embrace it. It's a game. it's a game. We're playing a game, it's maybe not take life so seriously. It's easy to say, I guess. And I'm certainly not good at it, but I'm working on embracing that journey.
Yeah. And one thing I'd say, Brandon, I have been an avid book consumer for 12 years now. And I remember the day where I said, you know what, I'm turning my radio off. I've listened to enough of the same version of this song. I've listened to the same music enough, and I got to turn on something that's powerful and will impact my life going forward. And that's when I turned on Audible, and I rarely turn it off. So over the last 5 years, I think I've done 130 books that I've listened to, and probably studied about 15 of them. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. Sure. And you don't know where you're going to find those answers. And if you're constantly searching for the answer and you're in a good direction, it's amazing what the universe gives you if you're listening.
So you use that opportunity, use the time in the car, use the time that would otherwise just be spent listening to the same renditions of the songs, and expose yourself to books that might give you new ideas, that might make massive impact in your life. And you just don't know until you've been exposed to all these different concepts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will give a sincere shout out to Tommy Mello and for his influence, because he's given me many books.
Can you recommend a few books right now? I know you said two, They Ask You Answer, by Marcus Sheridan, and Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game.
Yeah. If this feels like an absolutely ridiculous book, and I wanted to mention it earlier, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh, I love that book, man. Nothing ridiculous about that book.
I still listen to it every year, and it's an annual book. I've read it countless times, and I will never forget the airport that I was in when I purchased it on my way to the first business conference in one of my first businesses that I was trying to get off the ground, and I picked it up, and I still have the same version that I've torn to shreds. That's another great one. Sales differentiation, scaling up. I've listened to many of the sales books that are out there, the Grant Cardones, the Brian Tracy's, all of their sales content. Profit First has been an amazing book for accounting. The 2-Second Lean with Paul Aker, as far as trying to improve our processes and our systems, has been wildly impactful. Yes, I've got many.
It's a good amount of books. Yeah. One of the things I've noticed, Michael, and I do this, I'm also the host. You've done it quite a few times, is you said my name. And that's because that's the sweetest sound in the world to me, is my name, from the Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
So I can see you're implementing it. And I feel when you say it and you say, well, Brandon, it kind of, I perk up, I pay attention, I feel more valued. I feel more like you're paying attention. And that, for anyone who hasn't read that book, that's one of the things that Napoleon Hill talks about is you remember people's names, say people's name, and you'll connect with them on a much deeper level.
I'm having all of our project managers read it right now. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Another one of those like ancient books that somehow are timeless. And he specifically talks the names and the keeping people, talking about themselves.
Yeah. So people have figured it out. The information's there if you expose yourself to it. Wow. So Michael, I do want to touch on one other thing before we wrap up.
Absolutely.
So, and you don't have to take a deep dive here into your failures, but you said you kind of worked throughout your 20s on businesses. Are you saying that you started things that didn't work out this well? Did that happen?
Yes.
It did. Okay. So this was not your first foray into business ownership.
No. Lots of dreams, very hard to execute. And I was missing a critical factor. Another amazing book, Traction. It's one of the books that we've studied, and I've had my leadership study is Traction. And in EOS, they talk about a visionary and they talk about an integrator. And I would be nothing without the integrator that I've had. And Rocket Fuel's a book that talks specifically about how a visionary and a integrator work together and how to find an integrator. I am, by solid definition, and they even have a little test you can take, and I was like a 98% visionary, and my wife is very much so falls on the integrator side. Could not have done it without the right people.
Yeah.
And that was something I was missing in every other adventure I'd ever gone on.
Wow.
Was that person who was better than me at making things happen. I'm good at dreaming the things up.
Yeah. Man.
So I, in our last all hands team meeting, I apologized to the company and said, man, I know how hard it's got to be to work for me because this thing's always changing. And as soon as you like something, I'm ripping it apart and giving you like the 2.0 version or the 3.0 version.
Yeah.
And guys, I know that that's got to be difficult, but just look at what we've done over the last 4 years. And when you think back to our processes then, those revisions have been powerful. And I can see the better version.
Man.
That's been my blessing.
Michael, do you have anything else you want to say? Any other advice you want to share with people listening?
Stick with it. Stick with it when it looks hard. Stick with it when you're stressed out, and if it's not the right thing, entrepreneurship and ownership is not for everyone. It's really difficult. There's a thing called being an intrapreneur, which is working for a company and participating and being fulfilled. And there are ways to be fulfilled. Not ownership is not for everyone, and sometimes partnerships are just as good or better. So I'd encourage people to search their soul and make sure they're in the right boat. And if they are and they want to succeed, find the right mentors, find the right people to help and support you, because the mentorship is the key.
Michael, thank you for your time. Congratulations on your success again. And I know you and I discussed some exciting plans that we have for a 2023 little treat that we're going to bring everyone with you. So I'm excited for that. You'll probably be at 70 million, by the end of 2023. So you get to kind of ride along this journey and see you do it. But thanks for your time, man.
You're welcome. Thank you, Brandon. It's been great talking.
If you want to learn more about the topics we discussed in this podcast and how you can use them to grow your painting business, visit paintermarketingpros.com/podcast for free training, as well as the ability to schedule a personalized strategy session for your painting company. Again, that URL is paintermarketingpros.com/podcast. Hey there, painting company owners. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. And also, if you're interested in taking your painting business to the next level, make sure you visit the Painter Marketing Pros website at paintermarketingpros.com to learn more about our services. You can also reach out to me directly by emailing me at brandon@paintermarketingpros.com, and I can give you personalized advice on growing your painting business. Until next time, keep growing.